Governor, we've been talking about the problem of gridlock, and yet something complex with regard to climate change just got done in your native state. Speak to that.
Well, we were very fortunate that in our state, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican governor or if you're a Democratic governor, the policies continue on. There's consistency in California, and this is why so many people like to invest in California, and especially when it comes to green technology and to renewables and all that stuff. The green economy in California is booming because people see consistency. So all the environmental laws that I have, for instance, pushed, and if it is AB 32 to reduce greenhouse gases by 25% by the year 2020, or if it is the cap and trade and all that stuff, Jerry Brown is a Democrat. He continues on with my policies, but he says, I can even do better. Schwarzenegger did it to 2020, I'm going to extend it to 2030. And what happened was he needed Republican votes. I didn't have any Republican votes when I did my environmental stuff in California. He got 8 Republican votes. Because the way the redistricting works now, it brought the two extremes together closer and closer, so that they now can work together on some of those issues. Not on all the issues. It hasn't been fixed that everything is dandy and fine, but on a lot of issues, so that now Democrats vote 90% with the Chamber of Commerce. Republicans now all of a sudden are voting for a environmental bill. 8 of them have voted. Otherwise, Jerry Brown couldn't have gotten it done.
I think you anticipated my next question. So is one of the reasons why he was able to get it done and to get those 7 Republican votes on cap and trade because of the groundwork that you laid specifically on getting rid of gerrymandering and also the system of open primaries? Is this the net effect?
This has everything to do with that, because, as I said, I knew that when we create the reforms when I was governor, that it will have no effect during my administration, because it takes time to do that. You know, in 2008, one of them won. In 2010, the other one won. So then I knew that it would take effect in 2012, which is when Jerry Brown was already in. But that didn't matter. Right. I am so happy that it works for him. I am so happy that it works for future governors, that it works for future legislators, and that in the end it works for the people of California. You got to serve the people, and we got to fine-tune our system. I cannot believe that for 200 years we've had a fixed political system here in America, and that finally we are doing something about it and people are paying attention because they see the lack of action. And so it is great for the environment. And you know that I'm really, that's one of my passions, is to protect the environment and to make sure that the world is going in a greener direction, and that we get off fossil fuels and we come up with new technology, and that we all work together on this stuff, you know, that to get rid of, you know, the death that we are creating, because it's like 13 million people a year die because of pollution. There's no reason why we should do that.
I pay close attention to you not only in the headlines, but also via social media. And I followed your trip to France, and it seems like you're meeting with President Macron. You really bonded. You must have spoken on this specific issue and the climate accord, the Paris Accord that we withdrew from. Where's that issue?
Well, one of the main reasons why I went over there is because they had an event there at the university in Paris where they kind of reiterated their commitment to COP21, and, you know, the foreign minister, Fabius of France, he's the one that really was responsible for the whole kind of laying out the whole strategy on how to make it win over there. He was very determined right from the beginning always, and said to me, I don't want to just have another COP21, COP22, COP23. I want COP21 to be a memorable one. We have to get it done. Everyone has to sign on. And so I helped him with that, and the previous French President, Hollande, asked me to help with that. And so it was great now to meet the new president, and because he's going to continue with that, and to just reassure them in my speech in France. It was a wonderful afternoon where we all gave the speeches, and there was an enthusiastic crowd there in the audience and all that stuff. And you know, I wanted to let them know, I said, look, America did not leave the Paris Accord, the COP21. We as a country are united. We want to go and be part of the COP21, the Paris Agreement. It is just that the president dropped out. Washington maybe dropped out, but is it not the United States.
What is it that you get, Governor Schwarzenegger, that President Trump doesn't get relative to the accord?
I don't think that it has so much to do with what you get. It has just something to do with that we have different beliefs, you know, and so people have different beliefs. I cannot expect everyone to think like me. He thinks differently. Other people think differently. Just this is the way it is. So it is up to us now to convince the president. It is up to the rest of the world to convince him that, okay, that's the way you feel, but here's another way of looking at it. And rather than, you know, attacking and all this stuff, this doesn't help. I think we just have to bring him back and have to bring him in. And maybe it will work eventually, you know. But in the meantime, what is important, I always said, don't have the whole thing rely on the capital. It has to rely on the various different states and the cities, neighborhoods, individuals, companies, the private sector, the academic sector. Everyone has to work together to make this happen. And all of those sectors didn't drop out. You know, the president dropped out, but they didn't. So this is the important thing. And we got to move forward. Look, this is such an important issue. If you believe in global climate change or not, you can think your own thing about that. But that 13 million people die a year, that is not kind of a theory or this is something going to happen in the future. Right now, today, another 19,000 people are dying because of pollution, and that we have to stop. Everyone has to agree to that. Then from the rest we can go and have debates, ideological debates and scientific debates and all that stuff. But let's stop the pollution now.
A lot of trends begin in California, whether it's decriminalization of marijuana, the hula hoop, Van Halen. Is combating gerrymandering going to be one of those trends that leaps from California to the rest of the country?
Well, that's the idea. I hope so, because I think that it has worked very well in California. We've seen tremendous changes already. I think that the legislators are much more in a spirit now to work together and to get things done. And we don't want to have Democrats not be Democrats. They should be Democrats, Republicans should be Republicans, and they should have the ideology and all this stuff. But we want them to be able to work together. And in so many cases, they did work together. In so many cases, they couldn't work together because we always heard this thing like, if I vote for this, I'm going to go back to my district and I'm going to get voted out and I'm going to get beaten up and I'm never going to go and raise any money again for my campaigns. This was disastrous. I can't do it, even though it's a great idea. So what bothered me was I think when someone said it's a great idea, but I can't vote for it, because the way the district lines are drawn. So that had to stop.
How do you make it sexy? How do you make this appealing, the sort of thing that people want to talk about? I mean, you've been very effective on your Facebook page with some videos.
Well, you know, the thing is all about communication. There's certain subjects that are very, very difficult to communicate to the mass because people don't have much time to listen to a 30-minute video or to read a lot about something because there's just so many issues out there. So you got to be able to find a way of communicating very quickly and to just say, look, what we did in California, we basically told the voters, I said, look, the politicians are picking the voters. But it's supposed to be the other way around. The voters pick the politicians. And so they've turned the whole thing upside down. Let's stop it. And so people got that, and they started paying attention more and more. But like I said, remember that I said that it lost 4 times, this initiative, and the 5th time it won. And so I think that the rest of the country will be an uphill battle, but it is totally doable. I think that we can go state by state. There's 37 states that have the initiative process where you can go directly to the people with a proposition, and just like California. And I think we can use that means to get to the people if the legislators don't want to cooperate or want to create the reforms. And the rest of it you do through the courts. I mean, there's a case now that will go all the way to the Supreme Court that deals exactly with that Wisconsin case that deals with redistricting reform.
You know that in that Wisconsin case, I'm glad you brought it up, Governor, the issue is whether partisan gerrymandering should be regarded the same as racial or ethnic gerrymandering. Do you see them all in similar light?
Well, absolutely. I think that we should, first of all, pay attention to that. You know, is everyone dealt with fairly and represented fairly? But it's also a matter of making it competitive for you know, the politicians. Because the way it is right now is, as I said earlier out there in my speech, you have Congress that has a low approval rating, but 90% of them get reelected.
Right.
Because it's fixed, the system is fixed, that no one can challenge them in their district. They don't even have to pay any money for the re-election, nothing. So when there is no competition, it takes away performance. So competition creates performance, and that's what we need in politics, because the private sector in America is doing so well. So if we have a public sector that matches the private sector, I mean, this country could go through the roof again.
You are not an ideologue, and I think that's one of the reasons why you were able to get so many things done in California. President Trump, he's not an ideologue either, and yet he's having difficulty getting things done. What management advice would you give him?
I'm not going to give him any advice other than just to bring people together, and Democrats and Republicans, let's not leave out half of the people, half of the intellectual power, the smartness, the experience, just because they're Democrats. We got to have Democrats and Republicans come together and solve the problems of this nation. And I think he has enough votes on some of the issues that the Republicans can do it by themselves. But I just think that if everyone is in there in the game and everyone is participating, you get much more creativity, much more action, and something that will stick for a long time. Because remember, all those executive orders that Obama did, they're gone. All the executive orders that Trump did, they're going to be gone when the next president comes in. So you need to pass legislation. You need to have Senate and House come together and pass those things so that he can sign it.
The people that I meet just in my day-to-day existence, they don't see the world through left-wing or right-wing glasses. They're independent thinkers. They're conservative on some things, usually fiscal, and liberal on a whole host of other things, social mostly. But you don't see representatives, except their Governor Schwarzenegger, who seem to reflect those kind of views.
Well, there is a lot of legislators, a lot of lawmakers that are in the middle and that are willing to work together. I think that there is just an enormous amount of others that are stuck in their ideological corners. Right. And I think in the end, what politicians have to do, if they're Democrats or Republicans, they have to go and say to themselves, I'm a public servant. I'm not a party servant. And stop serving the party. You can be staying with the ideology, but you have to also be able to go and cross the aisle and work together with other people in order to get things done for this country. Because the way it has been for the last 8 years, where everyone is stuck and nothing is getting done, I mean, we cannot continue this way. It doesn't matter if it's a Democratic president or Republican president. This is not just Trump. I mean, Obama had a very difficult time getting anything done. So, I mean, that has to stop. That's why redistricting reform is so important.
You want to join Arnold's army? The website is MakeWashingtonWorkForUs.com. MakeWashingtonWorkForUs.com.